Welcome back to Wrap Drinks, your favorite podcast brought to you by Shitty Rigs. And we are here today with Chris Ingvordsen, who is a friend and a person that I work with on set all the time. And when I first met Chris, I was living in the Catskills and I needed to crew up a commercial. And I was like, oh, I'll have to invite all these people from New York City to come up to the Catskills. That's so sad. They'll have to stay in a cute Airbnb. But Chris was like, no, you don't. There's so many people in the film industry up here. And I was like, no, they're not. And he was like, yes, there are. And then we started working together, and the crew in the Catskills is amazing, and like really top-notch people that we really love and really love to work with. And I don't know, we just work together all the time now. And Chris has done literally every job you could possibly imagine. This is not an episode of Wrap Drinks where you're like Bob the key grip or like, you know, Sarah the DP. This is Chris Ingvordsen. Like, what the hell? What do you do?
Good question.
Who can answer that question?
Well,
I don't know.
on that note, welcome, Chris. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Great to have you. Cheers.
Clink. What do you do?
I guess currently producing a show with you that you're directing.
That is true.
Directed 27 features of my own, industrials, commercials, docs, stuff going way back to the 80s. But I started as a key grip, learned every job. I've been a shooter, I've been a gaffer. Currently also I work in the industry, believe it or not, as an armorer on bigger stuff and as a stunt coordinator. So these are skill sets that I always had doing all my action movies, but now I'm like, I actually could do that. So, you know, it's one of the things I do.
So how do you transition from one job to another?
You just got to hustle, like all of us.
Yeah.
You know, just whatever comes up. So
you said that you started off as a key grip?
Yes.
What was that process like? Like, did you go to film school? Did you just say, F this, I'm just getting right into film?
It was actually serendipity because I went to a college that didn't have a film school, so I had really no background in it, although we did start our own college cable station. So I sort of learned production that way. And I also PA'd when I was in college on sports programs. So I did, you know, like college football for ABC Sports and stuff like that. So I kind of had a PA background. Mm-hmm. Graduated from college. I'm from New York City, came back, and I ran into a high school buddy whose uncle had just done a film called Rocky. So I started PAing for John Avildsen. So I just sort of just by happenstance got into the business, mostly PAing. And then, you know, started working crew jobs and, you know, stuff like that. And through a friend who was putting together the crew for a Larry Cohen movie called The Stuff, which is a great movie if you guys haven't seen it. It's a fabulous movie. You know, my friend Daryl Green is like, okay, you're going to be the key grip. This guy's going to be the gaffer. So we showed up in Kingston, New York, and I went from, you know, kind of gripping to being the key grip on a movie. So it was like sink or swim. So
how was that? How did you feel? How was the moment? Were you terrified?
I really wasn't terrified because the crew was all guys like me, sort of up-and-comers. I mean, Larry Cohen was a indie legend, and he was, even at the time in the 80s, was making $1 million, $2 million movies. But the crew was all sort of up-and-coming New York City young people like that. So, and the DP was a guy named Paul Glickman, who was just the coolest old-school camera dude. And he was like, you don't know what you're doing, but that's cool. And Larry Cohen, you know, he just wanted loyal crew guys that could do anything. He didn't care. So I sort of transitioned into it. I mean, my first day on set, I had to do like a 8-rail dolly move. I'm like, well, how can I do? I'm like, well, I guess level it. So, you know, learn by doing.
You just knew to level it? You were just like, I guess we got to level this thing. You'd never seen it before?
I mean, I'd seen that, you know, dolly track and whatever, but it was never like the focus on me doing it. But, you know, within a day or two, we were rocking and rolling. So
That's crazy.
That's different than nowadays. I feel like if someone can't do a job and they go, yeah, I'm going to do it, they'll just go on YouTube or like figure out how it's done.
Yeah.
Back then, you don't have YouTube.
So
No.
true.
Yeah, you didn't have cell phones, you didn't have YouTube, you didn't have the internet, you didn't have anything. Yeah.
So
for
how
sure.
are you like? You just learning this from watching other people, or
No,
you
but
just?
I had other friends on it. So I had a crew, and my buddy was the gaffer and whatever. So there was a support system there. Wow. But yeah, no, that was the first day, in Kingston, New York, doing like a super long dolly move. But it was straight at least. So.
Thank God.
But,
And not downhill.
I love gripping because it's to me the funnest job on set. It's so creative. You really have to figure out stuff all the time, rigs, things like that. So it's very intuitive. You're pushing a dolly and you want it to be level. So just figure it out.
It's interesting you say it's intuitive. What makes you say that it's intuitive? Do you feel like you have a knack for something like this? Do you see, did you grow up watching movies and felt like what about it felt intuitive to you?
Well, so gripping felt intuitive because it's really just about, physics. So if you have mechanical aptitude and, I grew up like fixing cars and building little things and, so that was intuitive about it. But I also grew up, in the 70s and early 80s, just loving movies. So I grew up in Brooklyn, downtown Brooklyn, seeing every movie that came out in the 70s, which was just a golden age for movies. So, always wanted to be in film, had no idea coming out of college how I would do that, and sort of got an opportunity to do it and just went for it. So, yeah, and, Larry Cohen movies, so when you became a Larry loyal crew guy, within 3 or 4 days, I'm, B-cam operator, and I'm helping the stunt guys, and we're rigging, I'm helping the effects guys. It was just, they were bigger movies, but it was kind of that feeling, if you could do it, you would do it. So that's how I learned, and that became sort of the basis for my entire career. Just learn everything and, don't be afraid to do anything.
I feel like that's still your like mode of operation is because you're doing a film right now that's like the most indie film of all time.
Yeah,
it's like so beyond indie. You're like every department.
Yeah.
And like you like it that way. Like why do you like it that way?
Well, it's interesting. So, I worked I've done 27 movies of my own. I probably produced 6 or 7 more for other people, and I've worked on probably another 20 features. But the lane that I like is kind of that indie lane.
Yeah.
And I work, like I said, as an armorer and a stunt coordinator on big TV stuff, and that is so stratified, and everybody's like so serious, and only this department can do that, and it's completely different from the indie experience. Mm-hmm. So I kind of like that lane. So yeah, I did a World War II horror movie, which we're just finishing post on, called Huntress. So it's a jeep full of medics and nurses that get caught behind enemy lines, and they're looking for some gas when their jeep runs out of gas, and they see this German chateau, and it's a family of cannibals that are like existing by cannibalizing, downed American flyers. So
What?
Yeah, and it's at this point, I work with my partner Matthew Howe, who we've done like 16 movies together. He shoots, I direct, we both produce, we both write, and it's just more fun to kind of do everything. Mm-hmm. So, and the indie world now is in, like everything, in a state of flux. So you better do it fairly cheaply, and you better know how to do everything. And how to, it's like having an A team of a small amount of people, and that's what I like doing.
You mentioned on your website, Cinema Sciences. You should check it out, cinemasciences.com. But you said that Larry Cohen taught me the art of the sneak.
Right.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
So Larry Cohen was famous for, and God told me he did an entire sequence with all his principal actors in the St. Patrick's Day parade.
Oh, wait, the name of the movie is God Told Me.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was like, wait, what? God told me that he was...
You didn't see
Sorry.
the bush he brought in here? He carries it with him.
I was like, oh, it's going to be this kind of podcast. Okay.
And that's like the classic Larry Cohen movie. But so suddenly he's got all his principal actors and, handheld cameramen in the middle of the St. Patrick's Day parade, no permits, no nothing. And it's just an incredible electric experience. And even Q, his, the famous winged monster movie, he's shooting in the Chrysler building. He sort of had permission, but he didn't have permission to shoot machine guns up there.
Oh my God. Oh, wait, hold on a second. Let's slow that one down a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Wait, what?
Chrysler building and machine guns?
Yeah, so they're shooting down Q, Quetzalcoatl, the winged serpent that lives in the top of the Chrysler building. And this is a famous, famous horror movie, so you should all see it. And so they're shooting blanks up there, and it's the top of the Chrysler building, which is fine. They're blanks, but the shell casings are like falling on the street, 90 floors below, and people are calling the cops and whatever. And it's just, and so of course it takes a long time for the cops to get up there. So they're just keep shooting. And that's happened to me so many fucking times. Can we curse?
I look like the cop. Oh, you can curse
you can't
all you
fucking
want.
curse. Please, Chris. Please don't fucking curse.
Get your fucking shit together for once in your
Get
life.
it to fucking together.
That's another thing on every film shoot. That's every other word, people.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like, fuck, yeah.
For good reasons and bad. No, but I love the image of the cops running up. Going up one elevator, and you guys, as soon as dings, your elevator starts going down with all your machine guns. What the
literally,
hell?
keep shooting.
So that made so much sense to me. It became second nature because, you're not really hurting anyone when you're doing your film, and so getting permits in New York in the 80s, yeah, you could do it, but, So I did a film called Blue Vengeance, which was just restored by Vinegar Syndrome.
Vinegar Syndrome.
I think everybody would enjoy that, and that's we have a foot chase through the subway system. Yeah, no, that's just a sound guy, me chasing a guy, and the cameraman. No permits, no nothing. Now, we were smart enough not to have a fake gun, but we're still chasing people, and it's New York in the 80s, so the people are a little freaked out, but not that much. It was pretty much a commonplace occurrence. And then we have a chase and fight scene across the Brooklyn Bridge. And you probably could have permitted that, but the insurance and the rigmarole and the, locking the street off and the, getting the cops to do that. And of course, once you're actually you get a film permit in New York, the Teamsters are looking at that and, we're going to go down. Back then it was very hardcore. So you really had to sneak around. So that just we figured we would just always do that.
Why would you say that elaborate a little bit about the Teamster thing? That it was a little,
well,
if you can.
We might have to beat it all out.
My Teamster brothers, who there's a local here that we all love, were very hardcore back in the day trying to shut down indie films. So, and back in the day, we would shoot on something called film, everybody, and you would have to rent film cameras from, one of the rental houses, and, it'd be like, okay, we'll give you a deal, but you got to show up after 5 because, when the teams are left. So it was sort of a struggle and sort of kind of fun to sneak around like that.
That'd be a fun movie. That's a fun movie idea, actually.
Yeah.
It's like a gangster movie, heist movie or something, but really you're just a film crew trying to avoid the Teamsters. And the Teamsters are all these huge Italian dudes with semis.
Well, they did have ways of sometimes they were kind of brutal, but usually they would just go to film sets with air horns and stuff like that, and reflectors and things like that. So there are a lot of ways to disrupt a film set.
Why did they feel the need to, I guess, disrupt films at that point?
Because at that point, indie films couldn't afford a Teamster.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or multiple Teamsters like you have on bigger sets now. You just couldn't afford it. Mm-hmm. So, Like I can get, back in the day, you could get a PA for $50 to drive a van, or you could get a Teamster for $1,500 too. So what are you going to do?
Oh, so yeah, you're kind of in a way taking them out of a job.
Right. So, but hopefully that's all been worked out. My brother's the Teamsters. So, but back then, the struggle was real back in the day. You're shooting on film, you're dealing with Teamsters and things like that, and then the bureaucracy of the city. You would have to have the film cops, on anything that you were on the street. So if you just wanted to shoot something, why not go out and shoot it? And if a cop showed up, you would say what you always said: "Oh, it's just a student film."
Yeah.
And as you get older and older, you get the PA to see that.
Go talk to the cop. Go.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
Like the youngest looking dude you would send out there. It's like, I'm in NYU and we're doing a student film. And invariably it'd be like, okay, that's cool.
It's a student film about my grandpa.
Yeah. Is that what it is when you're hiring them? Can you just read this for me? Like, it's a student film and...
you're hired.
Yeah, and they're like, perfect. And
they were always into it too. I mean,
Yeah.
because you're just trying to make your movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that part of the I guess the excitement for you in making movies is like that I don't know, that component of like breaking the rules, of like going against the norm?
That's an excellent question. I think that's definitely part of it.
Okay.
And it's creativity in a production sense, where you have creativity and in the artistic sense. You really have to, when you're making your film, you really got to, this is your shot. You've got to do whatever it takes, which is the famous Spike Lee quote, but that's so true. Whatever it takes to do your film.
That's also the Shitty Rigs mantra.
Yeah.
Kind of. Whatever it takes.
To get the shot. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
No, but it's really true. And that's, I mean, I think there was a bit of, I think we did sort of enjoy breaking the rules.
Was there any like repercussions for stuff like that? Did if you saw like that shot of the machine gun on the Christ building, did the New York City reach out and be like, wait a minute?
Well, I wasn't on that film, but that's the classic Larry Cohen story. But yes and no. I mean, it was a lot. Honestly, pre 9/11, the city was so much easier to shoot in. There was a lot less tension, a lot less police surveillance and, breaking balls and stuff like that. You could pretty much do stuff like that. Now it's a lot tougher.
Yes, it's hard to get away with something like that.
Yeah. But, I mean, all the indie films did that, and we just maybe pushed it a little to the extreme.
Yeah. Did you ever get caught or in trouble for any of those things?
Well, on Blue Vengeance, on the subway thing, we did actually have a transit cop come up. So we kept hopping on trains. We started at Canal Street, and we'd go up, and then we'd come back, and so finally a really burly, mean transit cop comes up to, what the fuck are you guys doing? We're like, student film. And like, he's not buying it at all. It's like, where's your permit? And John Wiener, who was the writer and the co-producer and also the co-star in it with me.
See, everyone has 5 jobs.
walks up to him and I'm like, we didn't deal with this. And the guy goes, who told you could shoot here? And the most brilliant thing I've ever heard in my life, he just said, Kenneth. Swear. And the dude who's like a sergeant or something goes, oh, okay, Kenneth said that. All right. I left us alone. Swear to God. It's all he said was Kenneth.
What the fuck are the odds that you could just come up with a name and be like, oh, thank God, Kenneth?
Well, John Wiener, who just finished a film in L.A. and is a writer-director and one of the people that was one of my best collaborators in the early days. That's just, he just was brilliant like that. The guy wanted to hear something, so he said it.
He probably had the confidence in that delivery too of just Kenneth. Yeah.
Kenneth.
You haven't talked to Kenneth? What are you doing here?
Well, we also had what we call the COV, which is the cloak of vagueness. So someone is just so mad at you, like, when are you guys going to be done? Don't give them an actual answer. Just say something amorphous, like, just one more scene, almost done. They just want to hear something, like you're being respectful and that you're actually answering them. Cloak of vagueness always works, especially on movies.
The cloak of vagueness. It's like a Harry Potter, like the invisibility cloak, but
But everybody in
Not
film
quite.
knows it. They just don't know it by that name.
Yeah, there's no term.
You
Yeah,
have to
wow.
say something. And the guy, they're not specifying, is it Earth time or film time? Because Earth time is 10 minutes, film time is like 60 minutes.
Yeah.
So,
One more scene is so vague.
Only one more scene? Only one?
And
Great.
it always works.
We're
And like,
almost outta
okay,
here.
cool. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, 2 lines in the script is, and
Yeah.
war begins. That's
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I feel like for me, at least in my experience, communication is always the thing that really kind of keeps things on set very calm. Like as
Yeah,
long as you're
yeah.
going back and forth with someone, like say, listen,
Yeah.
I know we said 20 minutes,
Right.
we're at 30, just like here's where we are, here's the problem. Just keeping them in the loop
Yes.
really
Yeah.
keeps things like kind of in the pocket because people just
Yeah.
feel like, hey, you're at least responding to me. You're recognizing that there's something I gave you in exchange
Right.
for what you're doing now, and
Yeah.
you're reciprocating that by just talking to me right now. And I feel like a lot of that just, I don't know. Something,
That is so right on. That is 100% correct and that's what we always called like regular guy skills, which is like you're not the auteur, film student kid you just talk to people like people.
yeah.
Like, dude, we're totally going over, but just give us, and everybody respects that. Just be a regular guy about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you do that for your film Airboss? When you
Airboss.
Airboss, sorry, excuse me.
Airboss is a different movie.
Airbus.
Can you clarify which Airbus?
Airbus
There are four of
Airbus
them.
is a ripoff of Airplane.
But for Airboss, did you use that when you sweet talked your way on a Navy ship? Is that what it was?
So, Airboss was a film that we did. We actually did 4 of them, Airboss 1 through 4.
But the sequel names
Are
are gold.
yeah.
Let's hear 'em.
Airboss 2, Preemptive Strike. Airboss 3, Echo Warrior. And Airboss 4, what was Airboss 4? I even forget.
I don't know. I just love so
But the
much.
reason
like
we did
Airbus
it, I did
4.
a sci-fi movie called Absolute Aggression, and it's like a virtual reality time travel thing. And we did this sequence where we did like a mock jet fighter scene, like a Top Gun. So people are in injection seats, and we're shooting and stuff. And the foreign buyers at one of the film markets loved it so much. We're like, we should do an actual like Top Gun movie. So we did it with radio-controlled jets. We went down to Florida, which is like the world capital of guys with radio-controlled jets, and we're filming like dogfights. And
Wait, how big are they?
they're bigger than this. They're actually the size of these things put together.
Wow.
And they have jet engines, and they cost like 20 grand. And if the guys crash them, which they did several times, you'd like grown men crying. But
Yeah.
they're incredible. But anyway, so we're like, we need to get on an aircraft carrier. So we just met the Navy public affairs officer in the city, who was this retired captain, and he dug us. So we got on an aircraft carrier for Airboss 1. And the only other film that had ever done it was Top Gun with,
What?
back in the day, it was probably a $30 million budget. Now, God knows what it was. And we're like this scrappy little film. But we go down to Norfolk, Virginia, and we put like a small crew together, like 5 people, and we go on an aircraft carrier, sailing out towards Europe, where they're doing flight ops.
I love that.
So and you were being total regular guys, bring a box of cigars, because Navy guys love that shit. And they assign you like a public affairs officer, who was this lieutenant commander. And we just had him running in circles. And finally, he's like, just gave up. He couldn't mind us anymore. So
whatever.
We're doing like incredible stuff. I'm like in a flight suit because I play one of the guys. And I'm like walking up in planes in the middle of like the Atlantic while shit is landing and stuff. And like going up the ladder. And, oh, wait, a chopper just landed. We could maybe use that as sequence. So I go in and then hop out. And we're just filming everything.
No one's saying anything like, these guys are just hopping on like a multi-million-dollar
Because everybody
Flight
figures
suit.
you had permission because you're there.
No.
Right,
If you
you
get caught,
made
it's
it.
just a student film.
Yeah.
They're not going to hear Alan, so
Alan just said
the voice of God just
he
said.
comes in. He comes into the
He comes
edit.
in.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
But the weird thing is, that was one aircraft carrier, and they loved us. So we got on 3 other ones and a nuclear sub.
What?
So we go in the nuclear sub, and it had just been commissioned out of Groton, Connecticut, and so it's not going far. It's it dives and whatever, and there were like congressmen on and stuff like that. And once again, I'm in kind of a Navy thing, and I'm like at the periscope, and this fucking admiral goes, "What are you guys doing?" I'm like, "Oh, nothing." I've never seen this before. It's so cool. It's in the movie. So.
Oh my god.
But be a regular guy.
Regular guy stuff. Yeah.
It's regular guy stuff on a nuclear sub,
It's nothing.
No big deal.
This is great.
Because the people on those submarines probably genuinely wanted to show you around. They wanted
totally.
They're like, "Hey, you ever seen one of these?"
And they're stuck with us for like the whole day. So they ended up like taping little Post-it notes over like the stuff we weren't supposed to see. Like God knows what it was. And so
the nuclear codes.
And we're like, "Can we come over to the console?" And they're like, wait a minute. And then like half the stuff is blacked out. But they didn't stop us.
Yeah.
That is hilarious.
Getting a shot like that today would take forever, and they'll tell you no.
Yeah.
But, it depends. It's like, to his point, it's, I guess, how you approach someone, right? Like if you're willing to compromise, if you're like, "Hey, listen, like I have this idea, how much permission can you give me to do this? Like, I have this vision." They're like, "Well, I
how
can
many
give you this."
cigars do
exactly.
you need?
It's or you casually go, "I got these cigars. You want a cigar while I talk to you about this idea?" And they're like, "Hey, that's cool. I like a cigar. But also, what's your movie about?" And you're like, "Hey, like,
Don't worry about that. Let's talk more about these cigars."
Cloak of vagueness.
Yes. That's on a shirt.
I know.
But the Cloak of Vagueness works because we actually shot in Airboss 2, as you know. It's a space shuttle movie. So we got permission to shoot at Kennedy Space Center.
Insane.
What?
So we said, and you had to like send a proposal. So we said we're Danish TV doing a documentary. And like next thing we know, this is all pre 9/11. We're at Kennedy Space Center, and we did shoot a shuttle launch. And then after that, we're like, "Oh, let's just walk into that building and let's go to," and I'm the bad guy in that. So I'm like a suit and they loved us so much. NASA gave us footage because they've shot, billions of feet of all the launches. And it was kind of hazy the day the launch went up. So they just gave us their perfect, 35 millimeter film.
wow."
Because it's your tax dollars at work. It's,
You work for me, all right? Give this footage.
We just had to do a simple like FOIA request, and they sent us cans of dupe negative.
What?
Wow.
Oh yeah,
Do you still have it? Of course you still have it.
of course it's my barn.
Yeah, of course. Everything's in Chris's barn.
I think part of that is also probably like the interest you take on subject matter, because like
Yes,
like
for
when
sure.
Mike and I worked on a job for like Facebook and Now This years ago, there was an episode where we have to go work with archaeologists out in the middle of nowhere in Montana. And like we got connected through various channels, and then they were like skeptical about us working with them. We went out there. We were like with them in like a government regulated area that you needed specific permits to shoot in.
Right.
And by the end of it, they were like, "Hey, I've got all this awesome drone footage. You guys want drone footage for your show?" And we were like, "Yeah, absolutely. You have drone footage?" And they just like sent us a Google Drive of all this stuff. He was just open and willing to like give us all this content without us asking for it. And it was like he just saw what we were trying to do, and he just wanted to be involved in some way. And like
Classic regular guy skills.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
be a real person.
yeah.
Yeah. No pretentious, arty, anything. Just be a real person. Yep.
Yeah. It
That's
goes a
great
long
advice.
way.
Even
Yeah.
that applies to today, like in everything
sure.
you do. And it doesn't
real.
even have to be production.
Yeah.
Just whatever you're trying to do, just be a real person.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
For real.
And that's harder than you would. It's easier to say than actually imply for people.
Yeah.
Right? Because they'll just like the minute you talk to someone, they're after something. You're like, all right, what's up? And then that person's guard goes up, and the whole dynamic changes of the relationship.
Well, you know who's great at that? Corey.
Wait, which part?
All
of it.
At relating to people and getting people to do, whatever you need for the show.
Like doing a
true.
podcast.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
That's how you're here.
I'm uncomfortable around people who aren't regular people. I like don't know what to do. I like
Yeah, me too.
implode.
Yeah.
I'm like, why do you think you're so special and more important than me? Like, I don't understand. You're not. We're all the same. Like, but like regular people,
Yeah.
I'm down.
Yeah.
Yep. That's why we vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to deal with like celebrities in any of your films, like and just work around that? How do you deal with that ego?
I've been very, very lucky. Yeah, no, I've been incredibly. There've been a few bad apples, but I mean, my second film we cast Sandra Bullock in.
Okay.
This was my film Hangman, and she had just graduated from college and was out there like auditioning, and she was so amazing. She was like at Rap, she'd be loading the grip truck. You know, we had the Rap party at her apartment. So I've been very lucky with people like that. I've worked with Robert Mitchum, you know, at the end of his career, Telly Savalas, and I've been very lucky never really having a diva on set. Shelley Winters was a bit of a diva, but
She earned it, I guess.
yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, you know, so it kind of depends, but generally speaking, the name talent I've worked with were pretty cool, and I guess it's kind of reciprocal. Is like you set the vibe if you're a producer or director. So you know, maybe it's luck or maybe it's just the way you run a set, but you really can't have someone be an asshole to your crew or to other actors or just be a diva. So
yeah. I'm curious about your experience as an armorer. I have no idea if, as someone who's worked in the industry as long as I have, like, how do you even go about that route to take like that kind of, I guess, path to get into the industry? Like, what's it like being an armorer, and like, what would you say were the things that you needed in terms of your experience to get to that position?
That's an excellent question. And once again, I sort of just happened into the armoring. I had done, and I've only kind of done the freelance armoring for 6 or 7 years, but I had done so many action films that I was always kind of the armorer. And probably my oldest friend in the film business is a guy named Rick Washburn, who started Specialists, which is pretty close to here, which is the biggest East Coast prop weapons prop house around. So
They're amazing.
yeah,
They blow up a lot of shit.
You-
They're so fun to
You
work with.
mentioned them on your
Yeah,
episode. Yeah,
you gotta get them on shitty rigs.
And we got them.
Okay.
It's gonna happen.
but anyway, so Rick, we kind of started out together, and he was. There were no armorers per se in New York City, so he was the first one, and now it's the biggest on the East Coast. So they have the inventory of prop weapons, and then they also send armorers out. And an armorer is something that was kind of necessary in the film industry because it used to be the prop department. So like your prop master would do it. But it's such an important thing, obviously, for safety.
Yeah.
You have to have a totally dedicated person doing that, even if it's just a small gag. But then, on a big movie, you have to have someone totally doing that. So, I mean, it's, these are the aspects of what you do. Number one, safety for the actors using it and the crew. So that's your number one thing. But you may also, depending on the level of production you're on, you may actually be gaffing that gunfight or even the stunt aspects of that. Your DP or your director or your AD may have never done a gunfight. So you're literally kind of, gaffing in the old school Hollywood sense. You're coordinating the action of that. And often you're also training the actors to look like they know what they're doing. So I've been on set where I was like, you have to train this actress to be like Emily Blunt in Sicario. Okay, you've got 10 minutes. I'm like, I'll give it a shot, I mean, so, and you do what you can. Is that person an FBI person, or is that person never picked up a gun but has to defend her family or whatever? So it's all different. Are you an amateur or are you an FBI agent or whatever? So there's a real training aspect. And, it was super fun before the Rush tragedy. And now it's almost a non-issue now. It's like really there is very little arming and more like babysitting, like rubber guns and stuff like that. It'll come back, obviously, but
Yeah.
It was a really challenging and fun and very important, lot of responsibility. But if you're the kind of person that kind of likes that, it's a really fun thing to do. So I guess Specialists uses a lot of people that had prior military service or law enforcement or also just people that learn the trade, at their shop here in Ridgewood. I just always had that skill set because I was doing it in my own movies for years and years and years. And that's the same with stunt coordinating, which is basically the same parameters I've mentioned, which is obviously safety, cast and crew, and often dealing with creative people that haven't really done that before. So you're really kind of coordinating the whole thing. So it's really fun.
And what would someone that's in the armory charge, or if you're a stunt coordinator, like what is a good rate that you would want to look for starting off?
Well, it depends if you're, so generally speaking, a stunt coordinator, you're in SAG. So there's a SAG rate depending on what tier it is. And there are definitely non-union stunt coordinators, and maybe that's people coming up in the industry. But the SAG rate right now, and obviously the negotiating, I think is $1,080 for a day, 8-hour day or something like that. And an armorer is also a union position. It's in IATSE 52 on the union level. So that's also based on an hourly, which is basically commensurate with what a prop master gets, because the armor is part of the prop department.
I see.
So I'm actually not in IA, but I'm always permitted because I do some stuff in the Hudson Valley, but I've sometimes work on non-union, but mostly on the union stuff for TV shows and stuff like that. Although after the Rust tragedy, that has really slowed down.
Yeah.
And of course now we're in strike territory, so nothing's going on.
Yeah, you were gonna go shoot that thing with Paul Giamatti like a week after the Rust tragedy happened, if I remember correctly.
Right. So I worked on Billions right after the Rust tragedy, and so they had a scene with Paul Giamatti and Rob Morrow and the whole crew skeet shooting, and they were shooting up at this beautiful resort in the Adirondacks. So they were skeet shooting, but then all live fire was completely tamped down. So we had to fake it with CG, but they had to sell that they were skeet shooting. So I took them to a range and showed them how to do it and whatever. So it was kind of babysitting guns, but that was a little more on the training level, just to have these 4 corporate execs, or what I guess he plays a prosecutor, look like they've been doing it for years, and they were proficient at it.
Right.
And it's actually tough to get people to fake gunfire, which is the problem with not having actual, firing blanks anymore.
Let me ask you this then, as someone who works as a producer often, and you as a person who works in, stunts or as an armorer, how would you prefer that a producer approach you to say with a project? Like, would you prefer that they said, hey, I'm trying to do this thing, what would you recommend? Or would you prefer them to say, hey, I have this thing, I need you on for this day, just make it work? Like, obviously there's probably one that you prefer, and what's the advantage of having the one that you prefer?
Well, so generally in this business, everybody's like a day late and a dollar short. It's always hurry, 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 and you're like,
Here's $10.
It's like, we got to do this, and you, as an armorer, you're kind of sent by specialists. So you may show up on set, and then that's what you got to do. The Billions things I worked on, I Zoomed with the director and the prop master and all that. And we really had to figure out how to do that. And they also didn't really understand that it wasn't skeet shooting that was needed, because like the rich dudes don't skeet shoot, they do sporting clays.
Okay.
Which I used to shoot competitively, so that's why I got the job from specialists. So I had to explain actually how to do the set and all that. So but that's part of your job. You're there to serve the production, and if you're a prop person, which is an armorer, then you're there to help your prop master.
But in that
who's
case,
your boss.
they were like, they relied on your expertise to make it seem real.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Right?
And because it's like nothing looks hoopier than like someone faking a gunshot.
Yeah.
You can throw the flash in. You can do that in 2 seconds, but If they're not selling the recoil, then it's
Yeah.
stupid.
But even from a safety standpoint, if a director comes up to you and says, I have this idea, you probably step in and go, wait, well, we probably shouldn't do it that way, right? Like,
Right.
we
Well,
probably,
okay.
I would recommend.
That's another excellent question. So
You're full of excellent questions.
Damn,
Liz.
John.
way to-
That
the-
with THC.
the way to do that diplomatically, and this is to everyone watching this, whatever your position is, like, okay, we can't do that, but why don't we do this? Why don't you just you be very positive, and it's not about your ego. You're there to serve the production. You don't want to say that's the stupidest thing ever. You can't do that. That's unsafe. You just steer it in a positive direction. Okay, we can't have the guy shooting like this close, but why don't we try this? How about doing this? And that's the way to do it diplomatically. Mm-hmm. And that's a life skill too, and definitely a skill on film sets.
Yeah.
As you know, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I feel like that's because like Chris and I work with a DP very frequently who's very like kind of old school DP, really good, amazing, love, adore this DP, but he's like,
Yeah.
Stuck in his ways.
Very
like-
type A and very manic. Yeah.
He's the boss, and sometimes they've known each other forever, and sometimes Chris and this DP I'll hear them. I'm like, uh-oh, here we go. And Chris is always the one going, okay, we could try it that way, but why don't we try this? Like so diplomatic about it.
What?
And I'm like taking notes. I'm like, right, okay.
Yeah, we could blast that through the window, or we could just put our stereotubes here and get the shot because we're like,
Yeah.
Yeah. No, diplomacy definitely gets you a long way in production for sure. But I feel like your patience probably gets tested pretty regularly too.
Well, because and on bigger stuff where there's a lot of serious egos there, when it comes to safety, someone's got to be the adult in the room. Yeah. So let's say the crafts that deal with safety obviously are stunts, armoring, special effects when it comes to actual gags, whether it's squibs or blowing stuff up. So you really, you can supersede someone like giving you a direct order to do something if you know that's dangerous. And you have to have enough confidence and enough stature in the business to say, no, we actually can't do that. So armoring would be firing blanks too close. In the special effects, physical special effects, it would be someone too close to an explosion or something like that. And stunts, obviously, we'll have to throw the punch this way, or we'll have to, you have to, sometimes you have to really put your foot down.
Yeah.
And on bigger stuff, maybe people don't want to hear, but you have to do it.
Make it safe.
Oh, yeah.
Make it safe.
Yeah.
We do have an audience that ranges in experience on our that follow us. So can you just explain what a squib is?
So a squib is a small explosive, usually put against the skin. Let's say I'm getting a bullet coming through here. You'll put a pad, you'll put this explosive, and then you'll have a blood pack, or a dust pack or something. Like a hit on this. But they're actual explosions, so you have to be very, very careful with them, and you have to rehearse and sequence it like really, really professionally. So that's what a squib is, and there are pneumatic squibs now, which are very hoopy. They'll spray the wall. I mean, if that's what you're going for, but if you want a professional-looking squib, you got to get a professional effects person that does it. Mm-hmm. But it is an explosion, so you have to be very careful. It's not huge, but it's, you have to pad and explain to the actor what's going to happen. And they have to sell it often let's say you've got a wide shot, which will have a gun firing. That has to happen instantaneously, and the actor has got to sell the reaction. So it's really a lot of rehearsal.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
For like 1 second,
Like 1 second, yeah.
Yeah, but like how many times have you watched a movie where they did it badly and you're like, oh God, that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's like, it can be so campy. There's like that YouTube video going around, the guy, some extra gets killed on set and he like, and then like falls over and like rolls and like comes back up and sticks his feet in the air and it's like no one's paying attention to the movie anymore. They're all paying attention to this extra in the background who took like 20 minutes to dramatically die via breakdance.
And that was their one take, for sure.
Right, because it was definitely a low budget film, and they didn't have enough money to do it again. And it's like, I love you so much, but like you don't want to do that in a serious film. You know?
Definitely not.
Sounds like some of my earlier films.
Yeah.
I'm curious about, since you've been in the industry so long, like something like a squib sounds like pretty sophisticated. Like it's not something that was invented probably pretty immediately. Like it took years of trial and error to get something to be. So what have you seen in terms of technology from someone who's worked in like special effects or as an armorer? Like what has been like something that started as a shitty rig and maybe evolved into something more practical?
Well, okay, so here's a perfect example of how technology marches on. You used to have to hardwire those. It's
Okay.
wireless now, which is so much better for actor movement, framing, following, panning a shot, stuff like that. It used to be hardwired. And often you would have the actor, if they were good enough, would have a little trigger. So it'd be wired down there, and they had it like in their pocket or something like that. But now it's wireless, which is great because then the actor isn't anticipating it, and you have the spontaneity of that, which is, it's split second, but that makes the difference between a shot selling or not. So, I mean, that's a great example. And, I'm such an advocate for actual physical effects. Physical stunts, physical blood hits, actual gunfire with blanks. Because automatic pistol, you got the flame. Yes, you can put that in. You can paint that in. But you have the casing, and you've got the slide moving. And, you can't do that in CG. Or at least you can't do it in affordable CG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've also got like the relationship with the actor and the weapon. So
Yes.
there is a reaction from that person that's on camera.
Exactly.
Right. That's more genuine.
And of course, there's less recoil if minimal with a squib, with a blank, but it's still telling the actor they're reacting to that. So you're not pretending something's happening.
Yeah, you're not like, fired a gun.
And I think that'll come
I don't know,
back
that was
because
pretty good.
there's no way to do that other than physically now. You could do a lot with CG, and the average person can totally do it on their laptop, but does it look good? Probably not.
Not unless you have a big budget for CGI. It's like every animal on set, like any exotic animal or like a bear or a wolf or something.
Yeah.
Like I was just watching Reservation Dogs, best show ever. There's a wolf in it, and it's just like, that is obviously a fake. Like it's so obvious it's a fake wolf, right? And that's okay. That's what they have to work with, but it's just not there.
Yeah, it just isn't.
Like when you got the husky dog, you were sent wolves.
So I did a commercial where we needed wolves. So we called an animal agency, and we got the most adorable huskies. And they're like, all right, the huskies. And they're like, well, we're going to put them in makeup. So streaks and tips, like a case of streaks. And they did a pretty good job.
Stand back.
They were these and huskies are, and I've had two, they're the most affectionate dogs ever. They've been bred for thousands of years to be with people. But it's like streaks and tipped husky. You get what you
Okay.
You work with what you got.
But at the same time, it's like, I'll take it because I don't want a wolf to have to live on a film set.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't think you want to
live.
die for the purpose of a film.
No, but I more
be free.
I don't want a wolf to suffer. You know what I mean? Like
That's true.
I will fully accept your CGI bear.
Yeah.
Fully accept.
Yeah.
Like I don't want you to have to take a bear out of the forest to
on
make
on that note,
commercial.
I'm curious, do you feel like there's anything that's happening now in the industry that you feel like it used to be done, it used to feel more natural? Do you feel like there's the opposite of that, where it's like, I wish we were still doing it this way as opposed to how we're doing it now?
Well, what that makes me think of is so back in the day, we were all shooting on film, right? Which I don't miss, believe me, because the labs in New York were so horrible and it was so expensive. And we owned a 35 millimeter camera. We always shot in 35, but that was half your budget, no matter how low budget you were. But the one thing I do miss about film is the discipline. It was so expensive. You had quick slates. And now cameras roll, and even on the show we're doing, it's like, cameras rolling, both cameras are rolling. And the DP is like, hey, change that light. And people are talking. And
I'm like,
fucking you're rolling. And an hour, and a minute goes by, and and I'm always the guy going, we're rolling.
And
But-
I'm going, Chris, please make him stop.
Because it's meaningless now.
Yeah.
But when you literally could hear the cha-ching going through that film mag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that discipline, sets were a little more disciplined with that, but that's kind of the only thing I miss about film.
I'm only going to bring this up because you said cha-ching, but when we got our first like expensive camera, we bought like a red camera. I think it was like the helium mic. Mike changed the sound on the camera instead of it just going like you hit record and it would just record, but he was able to add a sound into the camera. So whenever you hit record, you'd hear the dollar signs like cha-ching.
Oh, right, I love that.
On the camera. I remember
brilliant.
I took that on a job once and I did it and I forgot that it was on. And the client was like, "What was that?" I was like, "Oh, that means money's burning, so we should go." And he was like, "Oh, okay."
Smart way to say it.
Great. That's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We, David and I watched Tar, the film, say what you will about Tar.
Yeah.
There's all these scenes where she's driving around in her Porsche electric vehicle, but it's making noise. And David was losing his shit. He's like, "That's an electric vehicle. Why is it fucking making noise? That's so stupid." And like he couldn't watch the rest of the film because like every scene he'd be like, "I just don't understand. It's an electric vehicle. Why did And I was like, "You need to calm down." And then like 3 days later, like in my mind, it was like the middle of the night. He was like, "Wake up!" It wasn't. It was probably lunch. But he's like, "I just looked it up. Apparently, if you buy the new Porsche electric vehicle, it comes programmed with different sounds of different Porsches of different eras. So you can. It's just playing like
Well,
the
of course
sound
it
of
does.
a like 1973 I don't know any Porsches.
Yeah.
Porsche.
Now he's like, now we
Whatever.
can watch the rest of
I was
this
like,
movie.
He's
okay,
like,
now
okay,
I get
hit
it.
play.
Yeah, I can get past that now. All right, let's go back.
The middle of the freaking night. God.
I was like, Jesus Christ.
Wow.
That's great. It's a great David story.
I mean, it's a typical
That's
crazy David story.
hilarious.
One of the best things about being Chris's neighbor and knowing that Chris very much appreciates practical effects is that if you need something, Chris probably has it. Like, I need a World War II Jeep. It's in Chris's barn. But sometimes when Chris is working on a cannibal World War II movie and you don't know that that's happening and you go into Chris's barn, you find like dismembered corpses. Like it's really like, I forget what it was. We had gear stored in Roz's house.
Yeah, we had camera for our TV show. Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna go pick up some stuff. He's like, yeah, just go ahead in. And I'm like, walk in and I look to my right and I see like something's weird. And I was like, there's a
Hanging on a meat hook.
yeah. he had like built the set for the cannibal like butcher shop in the back behind where our equipment was. And I looked in and I was like, what the fuck? And then I walked in and it's like human corpses and a torso and like knives and like
Meat grinder
Texas
with a
Chainsaw
hand in it.
Massacre, all like hyper realistic. And I was like, Chris, if someone walked in here and they didn't know what you were doing,
Yeah, do you have neighbors?
Just the one.
and he's dead now.
Chris, now, did you bring a special guest with you today?
I did.
You did?
Yes, this
Uh-oh.
is Sergeant Murphy.
Let's pull up a chair for Sergeant Murphy.
No, just bring it right in.
no.
Over to
In
Chris.
the beginning of the second act, he meets his demise.
Holy shit.
Oh, Sergeant Murphy. We hardly knew you.
Let's put him towards your camera over here. Yeah, you know what? Actually, what I would do is, how about this?
Middle
I'm going to
view
hold
and-
him for a second
Okay.
while you talk about him. And then that way we have a cut between your shot and then me and holding this cadaver.
This dismembered torso has been in a lot of my films.
I don't know if the camera can see it.
He's basically a friend now.
Yeah.
So, oh my God. Tell us about Sergeant here.
So basically, one of the plot points is our heroine, one of the few people who survives, is looking for Sergeant Murphy, and her coworker nurse, and she comes into this butcher kitchen, and suddenly she sees this, and the clue is that he's in his airborne uniform. So he's a little dry now, but the way you make something like this extra gross is
Moist.
the moist, and everybody uses KY, so you get that ectoplasm look.
Nice.
And then you throw the blood over that, and it's incredibly realistic if you light it correctly.
Yeah.
And does something like this, John, make you think Welch's fruit snacks that you started
absolutely.
on screen?
You immediately started eating.
Yeah. Like, oh, this makes me hungry.
Man, I saw the red and I was like, gummies.
Cannibal. Did someone say cannibal?
So now you made this?
No, this is an off-the-shelf prop. I got, God knows. There used to be a store on like 23rd Street called the Halloween Shop or something like
Yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah.
Halloween Adventure. Or
And
something?
they had it for years. I have no idea who molded this, but it's really cool looking.
Yeah, it's pretty legit.
When it's glossy and
But it
and
didn't
lit
come
right.
with a jacket. You went and picked out the
Yeah.
jacket.
Yeah, so this is the double of the Murphy jacket. This is the one that we turned into the corpse jacket, but that's a World War II airborne jacket.
Cover yourself up, sir. So let's put him on
I'll put
display.
him on the front.
Yeah.
And he's very sticky, so
That's Sergeant.
Sergeant. At ease.
Yeah, he's at ease, all right.
Yeah, I mean that was the morning I went to go get gear. I look over and it was in its glossy state. It was like it was like in the middle. You were like on a day off of shooting the film, and I was like, Jesus Christ! If I was like a young PA on our shoot, like you sent me over to get the thing. Like,
but I was like, what? And
then I needed a 4x4, and I was like, fuck, I gotta go to the lumberyard and get a 4x4. And Chris was like, no, you don't. Go to the barn. I've got like shitloads of wood. Just go grab a 4x4. I was like, oh, cool, thanks. And I drive over, walk into the barn, looking for wood, find a 4x4, pull it out, and as I was pulling it out,
a head.
No, a leg.
Sergeant's head.
A leg fell out. And I was like, that's Chris.
Chris, honestly, great cover up for what you really do. Yeah, just find body parts. They're all props.
They're all made of foam.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I mean, so I've worked with a lot of really great makeup effects guys. I just produced a film for Larry Fessenden, Blackout, which was a werewolf movie. So I work with Peter Gerner and Brian Spears, and those guys are just top of their game. So, for my movie, I'm getting off the shelf stuff. So there's a place that's great called New Rule Effects in Burbank, and so you can you need a severed leg. It's a pretty well cast severed leg. They're not.
You can also
cheap,
get
but
really good breakaway glass from them. Like they
That's
can make
the best
anything
place.
out of breakaway glass.
Literally the best place to get it.
It's so fun.
Yeah. So that's a plug for them. But yeah, so this is off the shelf, but depending on your budget, or if you really need a werewolf transition, you really have to get a pro, like Brian Spears or Peter Gerner or whatever that Larry Fessenden uses. But, if you're very good I'm pretty confident I can shoot something in a way that I can make it look good because I just have the DPI. So, low light, a little angle, a little KY and blood, and
And then you have a hot date night.
That's a different kind of movie.
Just regular guy talk, just regular guy stuff.
Good job, Mike.
I mean,
Thanks.
I know we do this in a lot of episodes, and I'm generally curious. What would your advice be to someone that's trying to break into the industry, who's interested in special effects or armory work or any of the just the general kind of departments that are available to us? What would you say to someone that's looking to come into the industry now?
Well, I'd say just do it. I mean, if that's your passion, just do it. And if your passion is to make films, just do it. You'll never hear me be a naysayer. You just have to make your own career. You have to make your own destiny. You're going to have to start as a PA or as like an additional on set or whatever, but just learn your craft, be professional, learn the two most important words in this business when you're starting out. Someone asks you to do something really hard or a pain in the ass, what do you say? No problem. No problem. No problem. And do it and get through that shoot and meet people, that's your network, that's your film family. And people go, yeah, that was a solid kid. That kid was all right. And you'll get hired again. Be the guy that says no problem.
So I think of all our guests have the most experience, and I think everybody else kept saying don't. So it's good to see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel for these guys. As they go further down, they'll maybe go like, yeah, this is great.
But also, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Is there ever a situation where someone asks you to do something and you don't say no problem? You play the diplomatic role, but has there ever been a situation where you say no?
Well, yeah. I mean, if it cannot be done budget-wise, you have to be honest. You have to say no. You may have another solution, but except to Corey, you can't say no. I saw that look. I saw that side eye.
I was actually thinking about the Spice Girls movie Spice World.
All right.
Because
it's random.
I know, but it is and it isn't. I just remember for some fucking, I don't know why I remember this. I forget like really important things in my life, but for some reason I remember being dragged to see the Spice World movie with some people. Like people were like, let's get drunk and see the Spice World movie. And I was like, all right. And we went, and they have a shot where they're all in their tour bus, and the tour bus is supposed to jump up from a drawbridge. The drawbridge is going up, and the Spice Girls bus is supposed to jump to the other side. And they literally say in the movie, they somehow say like, yeah, well, we can't afford that stunt. So, and then it cuts to like a really shitty,
it's like a toy car.
Toy bus. And it just goes in the middle of this like
Don't say the ending.
It's just one shot, and I just remember laughing so fucking hard. Like they didn't like try to CGI it. They didn't try to make it look real.
Yeah.
Like somebody was like, "You can't afford it," and they were like, "Well, we can afford a toy bus and some monofilament." Yeah. And I just remember being like, yes, best movie ever made.
So, Chris, that's actually a really good point. So, yes, there are times where you say no problem. There are times where you just say we can't because of the budget. Where are the creative times in between that where you go, we don't have the budget, but now it's time to start getting into that shitty rig zone?
Well, the shitty rig zone, which is why I love what you guys are doing, is when you don't have money, but you have creativity. You're able to be resourceful and nimble and think your way out of it when you don't have money to throw at it, which is why I like the kind of the indie lane, because you never have enough time, you never have enough money. And that's probably every movie, even huge movies, but you definitely on indie films do not have money. So you've got to find a way to do it. And everybody on set is a creative person or they wouldn't be in this crazy business. Mm-hmm. So ask for ideas, figure out a way to do it. When I started out, I loved the Evil Dead films, and I loved the camera creativity of that. And then when I saw a little BTS of that, they're like, they're running through the woods with like 2x4s as their dolly, and it's like we can do that. So you can figure out a way to do anything. But I love using camera and photography to do that. But it's like the shitty rigs credo. Be resourceful, adapt to what the problem is. If you don't have the money, that's what you have to do. And you know that. You're great at that. The other thing that I learned very early on is forget the reality of this room. The camera lens sees this. So whatever's in that frame is all you have to do. Mm-hmm. So absolute aggression, we're how the hell are we going to do a jet fighter cockpit? And there was a prop house in New York, like down by the river, and they had a cockpit. It was like $4,000 to rent it. I'm like, fuck, what are we going to do? And I'm like, the mag liner that we haul our camera gear on. It's aluminum. It's tubular. It looks like it could be in a jet. We've got the helmet and the flight suit, and the camera saw that and was like, that's fucking perfect. No one blinked an eye. We just totally made a mag liner into an ejection seat. And with a little shaky cam, and you got a jet fighter sequence. So
wow!
But that's what you got to do. And ask your crew. Your crew are all creative artistic people. Someone's going to have an answer to it.
Yeah, but that's also a really good perspective that you mentioned is like what the lens sees.
Yeah,
like,
that's
right?
all
How
that counts.
much can we get away with what the camera is looking at right now? Because a
Exactly.
lot of people are thinking about everything behind it. But in reality, it's like, how much can we actually, how big of a lie can we tell right now?
Yep,
right?
yep,
Well, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah.
Which is why, and you know, as an art person, is like the set, it's just whatever part of the set has to exist for that shot, and then it can fall down.
Yeah.
But like if it's going to work for that, you're not building a house, you're building a part of a house, and then as if you get the take you need and it all collapses, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's a movie.
That was probably my first experience on an indie film as a PA. Like I remember like having this whole glamorous perception of like Hollywood and filmmaking.
Yeah.
And then one day we were shooting in like an apartment in the Lower East Side, and the camera was set a certain place, and we were doing all the things, and then like we hit record, and I turn around and I look at like all the crew is like hiding in the kitchen like this. Because that was where that was the room available for all the crew to make the shot happen. I was like, oh, so that's
That's how
filmmaking.
it does, That's
You know,
a great,
it didn't click until that moment.
Yeah.
You know, because that's
Yeah.
I think people have this like glamorous idea of filmmaking, which I don't think it exists necessarily for everything, but most of it is just like you said, being in the trenches and like figuring out creatively how to make it happen.
Right, and if your exposure to the film industry is like, oh, they're shooting on my block, and there's like 30, Winnebagos and trucks and all that, and you think that's it, but it's not. It's like it could be two people talking or at a phone booth or something, and that's you maybe don't need all those trappings. You just need, camera, sound, art, and whatever, and that's it. That's what the lens sees. That's all that matters.
Thanks for including art in there. Appreciate you.
Well, I love art, and
know you
I
do.
pretty much production design all my films, and have art people and art director like Scott Hill, who we love.
Oh, yeah.
But you're I always thought that was part of my job, is like figuring out what the design is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different positions you've been in. What would you say if someone said to you, all right, Chris, you can only do one position for the rest of your life? What would it be?
Probably directing, but God, I miss key gripping. My back can't take it anymore, but I just love that. I really hard on my grip. I just am. And I'm, so we're doing this network show now, and guess who's fucking hanging stuff with, like Fernie clamps and whatever,
This guy right here.
I was wondering who. Thanks.
Just for those of you who didn't catch the reference, it's him. It's
Yeah,
him.
So I can, those days were so much fun. But yeah, I'm just obviously being a filmmaker in general, making movies. It's so fulfilling, and it's hard, and it takes a year or whatever, but it's very satisfying having that. Having a screening with your movie, and there are flaws and shit you could have done better, and there's hoopy stuff, but it's really fulfilling.
Yeah.
It just is, so that's kind of the path I took. So Larry Cohen movies, speaking to to crew here, we would have like 24-hour days. I think we got OT after 12 or something.
What?
Like back in the day, we just I'm not going to say we were more hardcore, but we were into it. And so you would like, oh, we're going to do a 3-week movie, and it ended up being like 5 weeks. And like, where'd my life go? Because with turnaround, it became like 2.5 days. And, it's just.
Larry's a good talker. He's like, hey,
right?
you want to come work on this project? No.
So the reason I loved him because I learned so much about being a passionate director from him. The production of his movies were always a nightmare. He always got like the worst producers, the worst production man. They didn't have to go that long. It's like no one wants to
For sure.
work your crew.
Yeah.
But it would be like, oh, we're doing 3 locations. Well, they're like 2 hours away. It was nightmares. But Larry never lost his temper. He was always funny. He was so passionate about stuff. So I was the key grip, but I would always be the dolly grip too, because I like being right on the action. So back in the day with film cameras, your AC was not in a little tent in Video Village. They were on the dolly. They were actually pulling focus. And so you'd have your DP or operator and so I'm like, pushing dolly, and Larry would be like hitting me, go faster. He was like, he felt the rhythm of the scene. And the DP would be like, slow down, you fucking asshole, what are you doing? Slow down. And Larry's like punching me, and he was so into it. A lot of times he would have an idea for his score or his soundtrack, and he'd be like humming it, and he was just so focused and so passionate. I'm like, wow, I want to be that. I want to be so into this movie.
I think the next thing that we kind of wanted to touch on was about film distribution and your experience working with distribution of those films, either on your own projects or with like Larry Cohen's films. Like, what has your experience been like for distributing your films?
That is the toughest part of the business for everybody, but especially for indies, because the problem with distribution is getting paid, basically. So the way it works is if you have a distributor and they buyers, either foreign buyers or domestic buyers buy it, they get the money. And they'll take their expenses and they'll dole it out to you as slowly as possible. And often you have to get, forensic accounting or whatever. That is, unfortunately, in a lot of industries, but especially media, that's the big problem. So, I mean, I actually have a really interesting perspective because I came in to the business in the 80s. And in the 80s, it was the VHS boom, the mom and pop video stores. And it was this sort of gold rush where there was a need for product because the studios didn't want to put things on videotape because they thought it would eat into their profits. So they were late to the party. The studios didn't start making made-for-video movies for probably till the end of the 80s. So there was a golden opportunity for filmmakers, for indie filmmakers, to just do anything. You literally could make a movie and get it out there on video if it kind of had sound and pictures synced together.
Kind of.
Easy.
Mostly.
And I always wanted to, unabashedly like genre films. That's the films I grew up with, like cop movies and action adventure and horror and stuff like that. I had no problem. That's really what I wanted to do. And you could definitely sell those. So I started out in, I think Malcolm Gladwell talks about, when opportunity meets 10,000 hours of experience or practice, you can actually do something. So I had been working in the industry. I knew how to make a film, and suddenly there was this opportunity. So we were kind of off to the races. I started in like 85. By 89, I had done 10 or 11 movies. I mean, we were making 2 or 3 movies at a time. And this was, it breaks your heart because that era is so far gone now. But you really could actually do it then. And we were, especially for like foreign sales, you would go to the foreign markets, which is MIFED in Milan or Cannes, and obviously Cannes Film Festival. It really was the Cannes film market. So you had the top tier festival movies, and then you had like this crazy carpet bazaar of people selling movies. And you could actually do that.
That's amazing.
Basically sell it on like a promo. You could do like a 3-minute promo, and they'd be playing in the hotel suite, and people would buy it from all over the world. So those days are really gone. So we were making like 3 movies a year at some point.
And like straight to video.
Straight to video.
So like you were so well suited because you were into making genre films.
Right.
With shitty rigs galore.
Right.
Glorious shitty rigs.
Right.
And like you didn't have a huge ego, like you needed your film to win, Cannes or the
Never had that.
Berlinale. Like you fuck it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like you were getting to do something really fun that you loved and getting paid. When other people were like scratching their way to the top of the red carpet or whatever.
And that's exactly right. But in the early 90s was kind of the film festival era. So a lot of the people that started with me, like Hal Hartley and Nick Gomez and whatever, started working on my films, and then they were making their more more festival type films, but had learned like kind of street taught on doing my movies. And they were going to Sundance and getting picked up and stuff like that. So that was the early 90s was the film festival era. And now it's impossible to get into Sundance. But then if you had a pretty good movie, you could. And then you might get a distribution deal. So that was the early 90s. And then things just got really tougher. You had to put a name in it. So, I mean, I guess the first movie we put a name. We used to put Jake LaMotta used to be in my movies. He was in Hangman and Mob War, and I just somehow met Jake LaMotta, and he played a mob boss or he played an arms dealer, and he could sort of act, but he really didn't read the script, so it would be like parrot directing. I'd say the line and he'd say it, and everybody's like, Jake is so great, but he was the first name that we got. And then I think Danny Aiello was in Shock Troop, and we had to pay him $50,000 for a day, but we would shoot, like 8 scenes, and he was sort of in the movie, and then, as the 90s progressed, it was all foreign sales because the studios were making direct-to-video. So we couldn't really compete with that.
Oh, they took your niche.
Yeah, I mean, because they saw where the money is. So, the majors and the studios would have it's almost like the B-movie era where you would have like the B-side, so they would do direct-to-video with kind of has-been names.
Right, like Little Mermaid 2.
Yeah.
I feel like there were like a million Disney movies that were like this really famous, very successful Disney movie. The sequel, all only on VHS.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that was, but the beauty of VHS is it was a physical format. DVDs, a physical format. So you could... if you sold or you made enough copies and you sold them in Blockbusters, you could account for that. But what destroyed everything was streaming. I mean, Snoop Dogg has a great rant, which you can see.
I saw that.
How the fuck do you get paid? Well, yeah, because now it's all streaming. And if you put a movie on any sort of streaming service of any kind, it'll get torrented within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So the people that are paying for stuff on iTunes or whatever, you might get some return, but most people are not because the average 11-year-old kid knows how to do that. So that really kind of destroyed everything. So I'm speaking from sort of the indie level, but the crisis that we're going through now, and this is, I've been wondering how the economics of the film and TV business work for a long time because, it was another gold rush, but on a big network level to make content because it's this long tail of content, so many streaming services. But the problem is now a lot of them are losing subscribers. The business is in the shitter, and they're not sharing with writers and actors and. Of course, the poor crew people are at the bottom of now there's nothing going on now. And, if you were working as an electric and now you're off for 4 months, that's how do you survive that? So how is the industry going to shake out? I don't know, but there has to be a reckoning because people have to get paid. I mean, try being in the music business as an indie, band or artist. It's impossible.
Yeah.
The only money you'll make is actually touring and merch. That's the dirty little secret. Like you make nothing from streaming.
Yeah.
I think it was Snoop Dogg that also said, like, how can you have 1 billion fucking streams on Spotify
Where's
and not
my
have $1 million?
Yeah.
It's like, it makes no sense.
So it goes back to my first point. Sorry, like I'm droning on because I'm trying to process this. Yeah. Who gets the money, actual money, is the person that determines whether the artist will get it.
Yeah.
And is that going to change? I don't know. I sure hope so.
I'm also curious. Sorry.
No,
I'm also curious about who, I guess, the sort of responsibility is on for that kind of thing, right? Because you have the studios that will buy the IP or the film.
Right.
And then you have the producers that are fundraising the money and then finding the crew to make said movie. Is it on the producer to work in the contract of the crew, some sort of point system or percentage for the crew if there's a sale, or is it on the studio to pay off that crew in the long run? Like, who does it fall on? Is it both? Like, and you could probably speak on this to someone who's made or fundraised their own movies. Like, who does that responsibility fall on?
Well, you answered your own question, because it really it falls on the producer, but it really depends if it's a union movie or not. For instance, SAG is very good on residuals. So I've worked on movies, and I'm still getting checks when there's like a new sale or a new territory opens up. The crew unions are a little less hardcore, or at least their last contract has been less hardcore. But when you're at a indie non-union level, and you can barely scrape enough money as a producer to make the movie, I don't know if there's a mechanism where you can do residuals. There should be something like that, because you may never see a dime on that movie again. So what happens? I mean, there's so many one-time movies. I can't tell you how many I've seen or worked on. The rich kid movie, the guy that raised money from his friends, and there's never a second movie on that, because the dirty little secret is you're probably not going to make your money back.
Yeah.
Which goes back to, I'm sort of digressing, but the thing I learned early on when I had worked with Troma, and so everybody knows Lloyd Kaufman, who's the crazy director, but his business partner, Michael Hers, is what I learned a lot of things from. And one of the things he said is, don't spend a lot of money. Don't spend a lot of money. I learned a lot of things from him, but he was like the hardcore business guy. So, if it's a non-union movie, maybe what you get out of it is experience, and intangibles, like making your film network, like making friends, making people that'll work on your movie. That's what you get out of it. And I think one of the things that really has happened is, like, crews are way, way more insistent on, like, manageable days. And that's so easy to do if you just have your shit together in production, in scheduling, if you have an actual AD that can run a set. So, yeah, the stuff I've been working on, you rarely go over 12 hours a day.
I say that because I AD, so
He's
she was
an
like,
AD. He was like, yeah.
I was like, yes, run a tight ship.
Shout out to the ADs.
Yeah,
Shout out to the nice ADs.
Yeah, no, but
Thanks.
there are a lot of nice ADs, and it's all about running a tight ship.
Yeah.
So I guess the answer is, when you're starting out, work on movies, and you're probably not going to see a return, and you're probably going to get, like a really low rate. I mean, I was surprised that I've been producing indie movies. People are working for $200, $300 a day. I was fucking making that in the 80s. But that seems to be the new thing. And I understand, as also my producer had on, is that you just don't have the money. But when you get into stuff that is that does have money, or is produced by networks, you really do have to have residuals. You have to have a stake in it. You have to have some accountability for that. And maybe at the end of the day, this strike will bring some of that about, but I don't know. So anything that would bring actual accountability, accounting accountability, and accountability to the people that made it, is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and coming from crew, believe me, and yes, I have produced movies, but I have never screwed anybody over. Always, everybody had a good time. Everybody learned something, and any actor that's ever in my movie, I've given them tape, and just that's your job. They become your family. So
how do you navigate, I guess, if your next movie that you're producing or directing on, how do you see it going for you? Like, do you still make DVDs for your crew? Do you still try to get it like to DVD or to Blu-ray or to streaming? Like, what's the process now?
It's incredibly tough now. It's incredibly tough for an indie with no name talent in it, because as a society, as a culture, it's all about celebrity, and it's all about, just in whatever media you're getting, whether it's social media or in actual entertainment media, it's all about the the celebrity. So it's very, very tough. So my last movie, Raining Hell, we got a deal with Redbox, which is
This is what I
amazing.
wanted to talk about because I was like, what?
It's amazingly retro because, if you're living in a city, why would you go to a kiosk in your supermarket? But a lot of the country is not served by broadband. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, we have a little local supermarket, the Chopper, Price Chopper.
The Chopper.
And a lot of people go in there and they, will get the DVD and watch it and bring it back in 2 days. And it's almost like Time Machine to Blockbuster.
Telling you.
So that was a very important deal to get because it's physical DVD.
Media, yeah.
And they made 40,000 and you get your whatever. And that was, so I'll try for that again, but that's very hard because once again, they're, putting movies with like Eric Robertson in, someone that someone kind of knows still.
Yeah.
There are other avenues. So this company, which I love, Vinegar Syndrome, which is based in Bridgeport, Connecticut, which I'm sure everybody's familiar with, that has been restoring shot on film movies that are genres, that are goofy, that are so bad they're good, that are whatever. They've been restoring a lot of my films. So they actually make Blu-rays, and they're completely honest about their accounting, whatever, because they're actually selling a physical product. And so these movies, there's a real niche of people that love movies, especially the younger set that are discovering all these goofy 80s movies, and they're actually buying Blu-rays. And they also have a deal with Alamo Cinemas, so we've had Alamo screenings and whatever, and it's particularly gratifying to go to those or to just go on Letterboxd and see the comments on Blue Vengeance because people are like, I never heard of this movie. This movie is fucking great, and it's like It's very heartening as someone that sweated that movie out and it never got a release, and so
You're like the Kate Bush of genre films. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Kate Bush is like back in a big way, and like there's like a whole community of people that are like, we love you so much, like this is great. Like decades went by, with like 10 people being like, I love that song, like a small group of hardcore people that were into it.
I resemble that remark. Yeah. No, but it's so there's always a niche out there. It's just streaming's not it because there's no accountability, and just Snoop Dogg couldn't have said it better.
Yeah, there's also I think a part of it that's like finding your audience, right? Like the Redbox thing is like there's a population that doesn't have broadband, so they get their films from this kiosk, but there's probably other demographics. And I think at the end of the day, it's like when you make your movie, you're looking for your audience that's into your jokes or the dark humor or the whatever it is you're making a movie about. And that's probably the hardest part is like finding that market too.
Yeah. I think that's why it's important to keep going to movie theaters too. Like you mentioned Alamo, Alamo has worked its ass off to like remain relevant and make it like it's an experience. I love going there. You can eat food. It's not bad. You have a cushy seat. You reserve your seat. Like they were like, how do we get butts in these seats? We have to like do way more. And they show these films and they do all this like all the little shorts before the movie.
Yeah,
and they're really funny. It just reminds me of the Rec Youth Film Festival.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they definitely, they cater to their audience for sure. But just going to the movies in general has been, I mean, for me in the last year, I've been trying to make an effort to go back to the theater regularly because streaming has made it so easy to just watch it at home. Yeah. But when I'm watching at home, it's easy for me to just stop watching and be on my phone.
And
but
it's so lazy. And what are you watching on? And it's not the immersive experience, and you're not watching it with other people. Which, when I grew up, you'd go up to 42nd Street, and I saw all these films either at grindhouses up there, or downtown Brooklyn, and the audience reaction was such a part of the experience.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And thinking about it now, that's how I maybe learned how stuff works, what people like to see. I mean, Tarantino, who wrote a great book that just came out this year, talks about that because he literally lived that by going to, grindhouses in LA when he was a kid. And half the experience as a filmmaker is learning, wow, that joke worked. They really love that, or and I guess it's intangible, but that's imprints on your brain somehow. So
This is why there are 10 Fast and the Furious movies. Because you go see them in the theater and they're fucking stupid and ridiculous.
Everyone's laughing.
And everyone's having a blast.
Yeah.
And we literally, my husband and I go to the Fast and the Furious movies in the theater because we know we're going to have a hilarious time and everyone's in on the joke.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh my God, that's so stupid.
That could never happen. Like, fish hook the bottom of your car to fly over a bridge.
I know. Like they're in outer space now. Like what the fuck? It's hilarious, and it's so much more fun to see with the whole audience.
Yeah,
and everybody
depending-
and like hearing the whole audience go family, like all at once. It's family.
Chris, is there anything that you want to share with us that we haven't touched on?
I'm going to give some props to you guys for doing this. I think this is, once again, a niche audience that is hopefully learning something about the business or learning something about other departments or just hearing a funny story or meeting Corey or me or whatever.
Thank God.
I mean,
Everybody's gotta meet Corey.
I've been into shitty rigs for years. Never sent something in, but always thought about it.
Yeah.
What drew you into shitty rigs? I'm curious.
Well, I think I was working on a horror movie upstate.
He was sitting in a Magliner cockpit and thought to himself,
I was working on It Comes at Night, and the crew, all younger, was like, "The shitty rigs are so cool." I'm like, and I literally learned from, someone that just thought it was the coolest thing, and that's years ago now.
Yeah.
Got to be like 2017 or something. So
Yeah.
been a fan since then. And of course, Corey knew you guys because she knows everybody.
these guys are,
But she didn't.
these are special.
Yeah. Actually, you started Danger Works, basically
Yeah.
connecting the two.
It did.
Yeah. So
John and Mike.
John and Mike
Yeah.
started the company Danger Works, and she connected both of them together.
Yeah, our first
forced
office.
them.
Our first office was the shitty rigs.
Your
Technically.
in the basement of where David lived.
What?
David's
Really?
loft. Yeah, the first Danger Works office was in the basement of David's loft in Williamsburg.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
It was
It was
disgusting.
the back of another room, and there was a false door that we had to and inside of there we had like a black cabinet where we kept some of our
Yeah.
equipment.
We had a secret door. It was
Yeah.
like the boiler room of an old building on Dunham Place in Williamsburg.
Nice.
One of the landlord is like an old Hasidic guy who refused to sell. He could have sold that building for $20 million. Like,
Right.
it's insane. And he was like, no. And he just didn't want to sell it. And there was a basement and a boiler room and then like pipes everywhere. And then we put a piece of plywood up with like tools hanging from
on
it.
the front.
So and like brooms and stuff. So
Yeah.
it just looked like a wall, but it was actually a secret door. And you would open it, and then you would go into the little sneaky studio in the back.
Yeah. There was like moist. So
It was
we had,
always very moist.
Humidifier. Yeah.
Reminds
Look
me,
where you are now.
And look at you now, kids. It
Does
was
it
so
remind you of
gross.
something, Chris?
I know just every office I ever had in the city, and I had like 7 of them, 8 of them. And we kept getting kicked out of them as the neighborhood's gentrified.
Yeah.
Started at like 17th and 5th, and then we were in Tribeca for years, and then like, oh, I went condo. We were in the Atlanta building, which is that one right on Varick. And it was like 2 floors of offices, and the rest were like fish warehouses. And
Yeah.
things like, This is like old New York. And we had the total run of that building. Like we just shot on every floor.
Yeah.
And the old hooky dookie, like $50 could get you to do anything. Like we
The
were
old hooky dookie. That's going on a t-shirt.
regular guy skills.
The old hooky. You should print fake Shitty Rigs money as like a reward, or as like a business card type of thing, but it
coupon.
just
Hooky
says the
dookie.
old hooky dookie.
Got some hooky dookie for you.
That's another thing everybody should learn is it used to be like 20, but now it's a 50, and you've got to do it in a regular guy way. You go, let me buy you some lunch. You never
Yeah.
go, it's got to be something like that. And everybody loves that, but you got to do it the right way.
Like if there's
Oh,
a
absolutely.
fucking leaf blower going on,
Here's what I'm
and
gonna
you
hit
need
you,
the
Chris.
shot.
I want to know some give me top 3 regular guy tips right now. Aside from the slide in the 50 for the lunch, what's another regular guy tip?
Oh, hooky dookie.
Yeah.
the old hooky dookie. You have to ask for something outrageous with a straight face.
Okay.
So we're at the 16-story Atalanta building, and the building manager super is Bob, and we're like, can we rappel off the building to the street? And what is rappelling me? I don't want to. We're on ropes. He goes, you just say it with a straight face. Like, okay, but who's going to know? I'm like, we'll do it after you leave. He goes, all right, that's going to be 2 hooky dookies. That's going to be 100.
He's got 2 hooky dookies.
Say it with a straight face.
2 hooky dookies.
Wait, did you end up rappelling down the side of it?
Oh God, yeah, tons of times.
What's the inflation on a hooky dookie these
It
days?
might be a hundy. A hundy's a new 50, right? I don't know.
The old hooky dookie, the new one's 100. The old one was 50.
So we know use a hooky dookie. Say something outrageous with a straight
Outrageous with a straight
face.
face.
What's another one?
Just be respectful of everybody. Just
That's
you know,
so true.
Like whoever you're dealing with, the location owner or the garbage man that you just want to could you just hang on for 5 minutes while we do this take? Just be respectful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're doing a movie, but we're doing this shot. Could you just shut that weed whacker off?
Yeah.
Just say it in a regular guy way, and don't be a pretentious film dude.
Yeah.
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 Words
And
to
slip
live
him a
by.
hooky dookie.
Yeah.
Chris, thank you so much for
you.
coming out,
Appreciate
for
it.
sharing with us, for
Great discussion.
listening to us, for discussing with us. And I'm really excited to, see more of your work and to do more research on your work because I'm actually not familiar with Larry Cohen's work. So I'm going to go do my homework right now. But Thank you for sharing everything and for being a part of the Shitty Rigs podcast today.
My pleasure.
Cheers. Hope to see you on the next one.
Yep.
All right.
Awesome. Yay!